And our advisory unit is on what if a friend. And we cover a variety of topics there, from drugs to alcohol to sexual orientation. So we'll take you through it.
Our rationale is we just believe that it's important as educators to really take care of the total adolescence. So we're dealing with some controversial topics. So really, before you would implement our advisory unit, you would have to check with your principal, maybe your school board even, and send home a few permission slips. So the first lesson is, what if a friend is using drugs or alcohol? We really want kids to be able to not only identify the dangers of drugs and alcohol, but also what steps they can do to help their friends. Our anticipatory set would be pair readings of Go Ask Alice, which is a controversial book, but the readings that we have specifically picked out are not that bad. We would use Jigsaw Classroom Type 2 with 5 expert groups, signs of drug use, depressants, narcotics, going on to what you should do and how you can help your friend. For the engagement activity, each home group, after they have compiled their notes and stuff, will have the chance to either make a quiz over the dangers of drugs and alcohol, if we have access to maybe a laptop cart, or write a short script for a radio commercial on how to prevent your friend from using drugs or alcohol and the dangers of doing that. The next one is, what if a friend is being abused? We really want children to recognize that, their parents shouldn't be hitting them, or verbal abuse is a major concern. We would go through the 3 main types of abuse: emotional, physical, and sexual. And the engagement activity, I don't know how many of you have heard Martina McBride's Concrete Angel. Yes, we're getting a lot of head shakes. We would use those lyrics plus the music video, and they would be split up into groups to kind of talk about the effects of child abuse. And there's a case study of Keisha, and she's in junior high. Her parents are going through a divorce. She was really outgoing and really liked hanging out with her friends. And now she's showing up to school with bruises after visiting her father, and she's withdrawn and just really getting depressed. What would they do? What would the students do?
Our next lesson would be on bullying or being bullied. The purpose of the lesson would be to talk about what to do if you are bullied, what if your friend's getting bullied, the steps to take to alleviate those problems. For the anticipatory set, we show a clip from Bang Bang You're Dead. It's a movie about Columbine-style attack that was thwarted, so it ends happily. This gentleman here in the picture, he made a video of him being bullied. And a lot of the scenes that are in his clip, I'm sure that these kids can relate to. From there, we talk about the different physical, mental, different ways online of being bullied. And then for our engagement activities, we do a heads down 7-up style game. Put your head down, your eyes closed, and just raise your hand after a series of questions of who's been bullied, if you know somebody, have you been bullied yourself? And then finally, we conclude with a news clip of Phoebe Prince, who was just in the news not too long ago, who committed suicide as a result of bullying.
Now, what if a friend threatens to use violence? We really want students to determine what actions to take to help their friends who threaten to use violence, and this could be a result of bullying or just a result of being depressed and you just want to take it out on someone. And when we talk about using violence, maybe that's beating up someone, or maybe that's bringing a gun to school. Now, the big cause for adolescents to want to use violence, besides bullying, is the desire for respect. And I have a quote here from an 11-year-old that was taken out of the Chicago Tribune. If you run, you look like a punk. Everybody is going to start messing with you. Ain't nobody going to respect you. And respect is an issue that all of us desire. And as adolescents, they just aren't mentally or physically able to figure out, I can calm down, I can come back and talk about my problem. And the engagement activity students would design either a role play to say, hey, this might be an example of bullying, but this is how we can figure it out, or a truth-like commercial. And we've all probably seen the truth commercials for anti-drugs or anti-tobacco.
The next lesson would be on communication or conflict resolution, which ties into the violence. A lot of times violence is the last resort for conflict. We start out with an anticipatory set where we have the students close their eyes and try to move to their neighbor's desk without looking. And from there, we talk about what makes up communication, and then also conflict resolution and how to avoid situations and use communication to take care of problems. The engagement activity would involve a minefield game where one person is voluntarily blind, with their eyes closed, and the other person will lead them around the room and it would have to be forced to communicate with them and how to negotiate around objects, and it shows the need to listen and the need to communicate clearly and precisely to what you're attempting to achieve. From there, we go into maintaining or building relationships. The point of this being, we have relationships every day with teachers, parents, etc. And the anticipatory set here, we thought we'd play Parents Just Don't Understand by DJ Jazz Jet, Fresh Prince, for those of you who remember it. And then from there, the lesson would talk about keys to good relationships. And then the engagement activity would be a reflective writing on a relationship that student has, either parent, student, friend, and things that they like about that relationship, things they would change about it, and then they would share that out to the class. And then divorce, another issue that stems from relationships. Point being is to show students that divorce these days is a normal aspect of life. 50% divorce rate in the country. In this anticipatory set, we have the students close their eyes and imagine themselves coming home to a divorce, and then have them share out their feelings of having to do this. The lesson would talk about divorce itself, and would also talk about the feelings surrounding divorce, because there are behaviors that can come out in children that are related to divorce that they don't normally act that way, but it's because they're acting out. And the engagement activity of this, we'd break up into 4 or 5 groups, and we'd have them make a poster about the feelings they might have if they had gone through divorce, or if their parents had were going to, maybe if they would go through a divorce. Still me. All right. Sex.
You just flow together.
Yeah, I guess. Point of this being is we need to show the students that they are changing, mentally, physically, everywhere. And the anticipatory set for this would be we'd read a story about a girl who tries to get noticed. She realizes that she's changing mentally, and she is really into this boy. And along those ways, she dresses provocatively to gain his attention. And in the end, she doesn't get the boy, but she gets ridiculed as being a tramp. So we wanted to show them that the different changes they'll be going through. And then the engagement on this would be a heads down 7-Up style again, because it's kind of a sensitive issue. Everyone doesn't want to admit that they've had sex or were experimenting in different ways. And we'd ask them a series of questions, how many people know somebody, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
All right, and lesson 9 would be, what if a friend is gay? And this would actually go over 2 days, so it would be lesson 9 and 10. The first thing is you want to make sure that your classroom presents a safe environment. You have to check with your principal to make sure that the content for the day's lesson is not overreaching your bounds. Also, words count. You have to make sure that your students are aware of the derogatory terms and what they mean, and going through all of that first. You really want to be able to have your students as an objective for this lesson, be a non-judging support system for their friends who may be struggling with their sexual orientation. We would start off with an imagery activity, which we're going to do a little bit at the end of, and then go into a PowerPoint describing and giving a definition for homosexuality, bisexuality, transgender, and GLBTQ. Does anyone out there know what that last little anagram means?
It's not stuff. That's everything with the Q.
Okay.
Queer, maybe?
Queer or questioning. You've got gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, and I went with questioning because I'm not for sure on the meaning of queer, but they've added the Q for those students that just quite aren't sure yet. We would start with an engagement activity with I Am the One, and we're going to go into that soon, and then end the day with the film Lipstick, which describes the story of a young girl that's struggling with her sexual orientation. The last day would be a speaker panel that would come in, and if you could possibly find a junior high student who has either decided on their sexual orientation or is struggling with it, a high school student, a college student, and a parent, and have the students really freely ask them questions and have the panel describe what it was like to be in their shoes, to try to figure out who they were and how it was to be different. And for the culminating activity over everything, we would have a poster presentation that must include at least 4 major topics discussed during the unit and why they are important to you as an adolescent. Those are our references.
Okay. Everyone close their eyes. Get comfortable. If you feel, concentrate as I take you back to a world very different from the one in which we live. A world in which you are straight, but everyone else is not. In this world, almost all the teachers and all the students in your school are gay. All of your friends and family members are gay. Most of the doctors, judges, politicians, and world leaders are gay. Celebrities are gay, as are all the priests, rabbis, surfis, and imams. In this world, all the books and television programs are about gay characters, and marriage is legal only for gay couples. Of course, there are some straight people, but they are ridiculed and whispered about. Clearly, there is something really bad about being straight. You've heard things like straight people are sick. They are obsessed with sex. Programs on television sometimes explore the curious straight lifestyle.
Now open your eyes, come back to life here. In the lesson content, we would go through all these definitions, but for the sake of time, I'm just going to hit on a couple of the important stats, and then we'll start on the activity. Over 84% of GLBTQ students reported verbal harassment at school, with 39% reporting that they suffered from physical violence on school grounds. 28% of gay bisexual youth drop out of school due to peer harassment. Now, on those little handouts that you got, there should be a poem entitled I Am the One. I'm going to read the first stanza, and then we'll move on from there. I am the one. I am the one who is subject to whispers. I am the one who is always being told to be different. I am the one who has to pretend, the one who can't tell my family, the one who walks alone in the hallway, the one who isn't sure anymore. I am the one who is afraid I will be the victim of a hate crime. I am the one you are afraid to be seen with. I am the one who is quick to point fingers and laugh, whose friends are on both sides of the line, who conjures assumptions and spreads rumors. I am the one who is surrounded by people who are all the same, who wants to stick up for people but doesn't know how, who wants to say something back. I am the one who just wants to be accepted. I am the one who feels powerless. I am the one who wants to be set free. I am the one who wants my parents to love me for me, who cares inside but is afraid to speak up, who always wanted to have the perfect life but doesn't know what that means anymore. I am the one who is threatened by difference. I am the one who disagrees with my parents. I am the one who is never safe, who doesn't know who I can talk to, who avoids the ones that call me names. I am the one who is outraged at the harassment I see in my school. I am the one.
For the sake of time, we were going to break you into groups and have you read the second stanza. Have you had a chance to read through the poem already? All right. There's 4 questions we want to ask you. First, what is your emotional response to this poem?
Hurt.
What are some of the ways that anti-gay name calling and harassment impact the public?
All we need is one example. Yeah. And this would be an area that you would really have to talk with your students about what the actual meaning of fag is. And I just learned that today. Fag comes from faggot, which means a bundle of sticks, which is how they used to kill homosexual people by burning them.
Have you ever observed this type of name calling in your school? And explain why some students are targeted over others. Remember to keep your answers respectful.
Any thoughts on why some people would be targeted over another person? Popular?
They don't understand why.
Because they don't understand why.
They're not afraid of a reaction.
Not afraid of the reaction, that's right. Those are all good responses. Now, to get back to our imagery activity, I'm just going to do this real quick. Sometimes you think that you have to tell someone about this secret. You spend hours thinking about whom to approach. You remember when you were a kid hearing your dad tell nasty jokes about straights at the dinner table and everyone laughed. So you can't tell your family. All of this makes you feel really isolated and afraid. You are unsure what to do. Where can you turn? Who can you talk to? You can't talk about your feelings at home, your school feels unsafe, and you don't trust your friends to support you. Having this secret is a little like having a piranha inside. It keeps eating away at your self-esteem so that after a while, you hate how you feel, you hate yourself too. So these are just thoughts that we want you to think about.